In this video, we're going to talk about multi-tag sets and how to code them. So I've started a new web page for this one. I've called it Web Page 04. You can call it whatever you like. And we're going to take a look at some multi-tag sets. In particular, we're going to do some unordered lists, ordered lists, and a table. So to this point, you've been used to tags that have a beginning and an end, like on the H1 header that I just coded. But there are also other types of structures that we create on HTML pages that are a little bit more complicated and require sets of tags. One of these is the ordered list. The main tag for this is OL, obviously, ordered list. That helps to create the structure that's needed, but it doesn't in and of itself do anything, as you can see over here. To actually get content within your ordered list, you need to use LI tags within your OL tag. LI just stands for list item. And let's go ahead and put in a few. So that gives us a few different items. So notice what happened. Because of the OL, each of those LI statements gets a Roman numeral number, 1, 2, 3 in this case. Notice that there's a little other formatting. Ordered lists are indented a little bit, and that's just by default. Now, similarly, there are unordered lists, and it looks very, very similar in how it's coded. But notice what happens with this one. This one gets bullet points. So unordered list, that simply means that it doesn't matter what order the list items are understood in. It's not a hierarchy or a sorted list. It's just a collection of items. They're all equal, so to speak. For a list like that, you would use UL, unordered list. And notice the default here is a bullet. Now you can change those display options, and I'll talk about that in the properties video in this unit. But let's take a look at the last type of multi-tag set that we're going to look at here, and that's the table. The table is one of the most complex structures in HTML. It has several different parts to it. So let's just take them one by one, and hopefully this will make sense as we go along. So first of all, again, just like with the UL and OL, the table tag itself doesn't render anything. So you need to have other parts in there for this to work. You want to start your table with a caption, and captions do have some default formatting to them. In this case, look at what this did over here. Because we don't have any width to our table, we haven't added any content to it, so it's sort of like this very, very narrow little row down here. But as we add content to the table, you'll see the caption will get to be in its place. So just like a page itself has a head and a body, a table also has a head and a body, and a foot, for that matter, a footer. So in the table head is where we get the top row that organizes the table. And again, these are the individual table head cells. And I may add a little bit of indenting here just to help you see it. Okay, so we're inside the head of the table. Now we created a TR, a table row, okay? And now, depending on how many columns I want this table to have, that's how many of these TH units I'm going to put in there. Okay, and so maybe here we have name, address, phone. Just an organizational table, and see what happens there. So now, because we have some width to the table and it's fitting the content just precisely right now. And again, we can change those properties, those aesthetic properties like the width of the cells and adding grid lines and all that good stuff. We will do that eventually, but for right now, we're just going to worry about the structure of the table. Now notice you can put these tags right directly at the end of the content too. That's also totally fine. I was just kind of making a point to show that we have that structure. So that does absolutely nothing. That's all the same to the HTML. Okay, so, but now we have our top row. You can see how many columns this table is going to have. All right, to continue on. We're in the body of the table now, and we're going to make some more rows. And each of these rows is going to have 3 individual columns to it, okay? Because that's what we formatted so far. And now once we're in the body, instead of using TH for table head, we're going to use TD, which is for the individual column cells. The TD is what we use to create the column content. Okay, so now you can see how the content starts to fill on in. And notice now that we, again, have a little bit more content to it, a little more width. You can see that by default, the TH, the table head information, is centered over the text. The caption becomes centered over the table itself. And the individual information within the cells is left justified. So that's how that's going to work. I'm just going to copy paste to get a couple more rows in here. And again, you can see as we start to expand out the data in the table is fitting to itself. So hopefully the principle is clear. And let me go ahead and do my view page source, and we'll kind of go over this again in the larger format here. So these are the sets, these are the multi-tag sets, ordered lists, unordered lists. Those are pretty simple. You just need to have this OL or UL as a container, and then all the LIs within there. Notice it's the same one either way, LI, list item. All those LIs fit within there, and then they would render in this way, right? As a 1, 2, 3 or bulleted list. Okay, now the table on the other hand, we start with the caption, then we have a head to our table, we have a body to our table. Like I said, we could have a foot as well. You know, if it were, say, a table of numbers, this might be where our totals would end up. I'm just going to put in, and then I'll put in a couple of blank cells just so you can see. Okay, there's our T foot. And there's our T foot. You know, it looks just like a normal row. But the reason that you want to use, again, these semantic tags when you're actually encoding the table is again, for screen readers, and it comes in handy for other coding purposes to be able to target information into certain parts of the table, for example. So there are good reasons to use the semantic tagging and to make discrete the different parts of your table. So yes, and just to walk through. So the biggest container here is the table itself, and that has a beginning and an end. Right, and here's the end, right? And then everything else is contained within there. The caption is sort of a standalone unit. Then we've got the head, and the head contains rows, and then these individual cells that represent however many cells you have per row is going to give you how many columns. And then we've got the body. And we can see here we have 3 different rows in the body, and then we have 3 columns within that body represented by these individual cells. So 3 of each of these in these different, in each of the different rows. So that tells us how many columns. And then we can have a foot. And then here we have that foot as well with 1 row and the 3 columns still, okay? So that gives us a sense of the multi-tags. They have to go together. Remember I showed you the OL, the UL, the table. They don't do anything in and of themselves. They have to have other pieces in them for them actually to function and make sense.